Hey everyone, it's Faith from the Literacy View, and I have something exciting to share. Big Sky has done it again with over 25 hours of powerful literacy content. We're talking mentor recordings, real talk, and absolutely no fluff. And guess what? We've got an exclusive just for our listeners. Normally, it's $199, but not for you. Use the code LiteracyView. That's LITERACYVIEW, all one word, but $30 off. And if you're ready to lead and grow, the Literacy Leadership Mentorship is now open. Same code, same savings. Oh, and yes, the swag is live. You don't have to be in Montana to wear it with pride. All the links are in our show notes. This is the Literacy View, where the nonsense stops and the learning takes off. All codes are in the show notes. That's the Literacy View.
So we are so sorry. I ran into a technical glitch. As you know, I'm self-funded doing this by myself, and I've been podcasting for the whole summit, and we ran into some technical glitches, but now everything is wonderful. So we start over. So welcome to the Literacy View. I'm Judy Boxner here reporting live at the World Literacy Summit in Montana. And we have some really amazing special guests here today. So I'd like them to introduce themselves. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Charles Hulme from Oxford. I'm one of the developers of the NELI or Tell-TED language program, and I've been studying children's and language and literacy difficulties for a long time now.
I am Maggie Snowling. I'm Professor of Psychology at the University of Oxford. I collaborate with Charles, and like him, have been working for many years on reading and language development and difficulties.
Hi, I'm Nickie Nelson. I'm a first grade teacher from Winans in Livingston, Montana. And I was just thinking, I am also in graduate school, and I've been reading Charles Hulme and Maggie Snowling's articles and books. And I also have been piloting the NELI program in my first grade classroom.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Magic.
That's awesome.
I was offered the opportunity, and I saw some of the curriculum, and I saw some of the results, and I was like, I need this in my classroom because we have a population of learners that have some language needs in our community, and so I could tell I needed to do more to help them.
That's wonderful.
Hi, I'm Patti Durgan, principal at Winans School in Livingston, Montana. We serve preschool through second graders in our building, as well as a autism program and special education preschool program.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you all for being here today. And I have some questions. So why do you know that language is everything? That's been the theme of the whole conference. We've heard the word language throughout the whole conference. And it's been, I think that it's been very intentional. So what are your perspectives?
So measures of language taken very early on in in preschool are one of the best predictors of educational success at school leaving age. And of course, that itself is one of the best predictors of career and economic success. So we know it's a really important faculty.
How long have we known that?
Oh, many, many years.
I would say that's quite recent, isn't it? I mean, clear demonstrations of that in the last 10, 15 years.
Well, Wexler showed these things, and then they developed the IQ test that vocabulary was such a...
Oh, sure. No, I'm thinking particularly about very early language skills being powerful predictors of later reading skills. That's in the family risk studies, I suppose.
I feel like in an article that you wrote, and I don't know that I'll get it right, but I feel like there was a predictive nature. Like, age 3 predicts reading skills at, is it 8th grade?
Yeah.
Or grade 8?
Age
8, yeah.
So a paper we
5 years later, right?
Yeah, 5 years later. So that's a paper we published in Psychological Science in 2015, and we found that language skills at age 3.5 were very powerful predictors of the development of decoding skills when kids entered school, and as Nickie said, continued via those intermediate skills to be powerful predictors of both the children's word reading and reading comprehension much later, up to the age of 8.
You know, that's interesting. It ties into what I've been learning. I spoke to Ann Kaiser earlier today, and it was also about language. And she said, by age 2, a child should be able to say like 50 words. And if they don't, that might be an area of concern. And I think that so many parents, unfortunately, still don't have that information, or feel ashamed or scared or nervous or don't know where to go, especially in a school like where I work. A lot of the families are extremely poor. They don't have a lot of financial means. And sometimes, you know, even we have speech providers in school, but sometimes they only provide service to mandated students. Sometimes their caseloads are extensive. And sometimes there's not that much communication between speech providers and classroom practitioners because everybody's really busy, and it's very often that we're working in silos. So do you have any recommendations on how we can make sure that language does become a priority in our schools? Because right now I see pieces of it, but I don't think we're where we should be.
That's really why we developed the NELI or TED language programs, which really are designed to put the sort of tools that would normally have been used by speech and language therapists into the hands of educators in schools. And I suppose we're campaigning to get schools to understand that language is fundamental to education, and that language in school can be effectively taught and should be taught, particularly for children who are coming from disadvantaged backgrounds. I think Nickie can say more about that probably.
Well, so one of the things that I really noticed, so when the OxEd product, it's not just NELI, but they have the language screen, which really helps us determine some areas to target with our kids, but it also gives an overall global look at their ability.
It's amazing.
Which is amazing. And so what I noticed is there are kids who flag that need definite interventions, but then there are kids that are kind of in the middle, and they don't have a severe enough need to be able to get speech and language.
So what do you do?
So you teach NELI or TED whole class in your classroom. And then it's a net that you're providing for your students.
So tell me what that looks like.
It's so fun.
I was taking a nice little peek. I was happy that, you know, at the conference they have the table with the resources. The only problem is we don't have that much time, and to really get to know a product or a resource well, it takes time and intentionality. And the other thing that I wish that we could do more after conferences, okay, I see something, here's how to use it. Because sometimes it's very scary. Like, you know, in the educational system, we get so many resources. How do we do it? I think the doing it part, once you probably do something once or twice, you could feel really confident. So tell me a little bit about your journey with using NELI. What does it feel like? And what does the teaching part of it look like?
Okay. So first of all, they provide you a lot of training. So you get the background knowledge that you need in order to really understand the purpose of how the lessons are designed. And then you get a digital component as well as a teacher's manual. And it's extremely simple to follow and to implement. And so they give you ideas on how you can differentiate instruction.
I saw that.
Terms that your vocabulary words that you're going to work on. And it starts with things that are more simple, and then it builds into more complex. And they do have on their website, they do have videos.
Can you tell my listeners where they can go find it?
It's on the OxEd site.
So the website is oxedanassessment.com, and that will take you to lots of information about Language Screen and the NELI program and materials.
And hopefully you guys can send me some links, and I'll add them to the show notes as well, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to reach out to us for that.
And I think one of the things that I really loved is they have a mascot, Ted, who is this darling little
Kids
bear.
do like mascots.
So he's really approachable. And
Wait, what's his name?
Ted.
Okay.
Tell Ted. See, it's very fun. And so because it's so scaffolded, not only for the students, but also the teacher, it becomes so easy to teach. And And then I always say you don't ever want to teach oral language in isolation.
Right.
And because the themes are very applicable to what we're talking about, usually in a global sense of
Yeah.
you can embed it then throughout the day. And so you're getting that distributed practice.
Does it make it easy to embed it? Because I know like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the teachers where I'm at, our time is very like, you need to do this at this time, this at this time, this at this time, this at this time. And it's almost like we feel as educators that we're like squeezing things in rather than being really intentional. And we know that the brain needs to see things in multiple places and have a real rich experience rather than just doing it to say, check, I did this. So like, how do you embed it within your literacy block?
I think it's easy to incorporate through the day. We're using it in our preschool classes.
That's great.
The whole class preschool now.
Oh, I love that.
Small group in our kindergarten, and then Nickie and another teacher's been doing it a whole class in
Right.
first grade. And she has a really nice system and a way to embed it throughout the days.
So I can think of one example. So say you're teaching signal words and you're teaching a text structure that you're comparing. So then that word compare, you can reference back to it. So remember we were comparing, Ted was wearing a long sleeve shirt and a short sleeve shirt. Now we're going to compare again. So you're referring back to the content, but also to that, tier 2 word that is applicable across content areas. So it really establishes a strong foundation for content words, but also those that,
Now, how does somebody make the determination, like if they're given like a certain amount of time in their literacy block, if they're going to teach a kid how to read during that time, like to read a decodable text maybe, or are they going to focus on that? How would you make like that determination of how to allocate your time best?
I prioritize NELI.
Good.
So it wasn't, this is going away and I'm doing this. I did both and.
That's
It was
wonderful.
never a question of one or the other for me.
That's wonderful.
And because of the spiral cumulative nature, you can spend 15 to 20 minutes whole class and you're doing it 3 to 5 days a week. And then you're just building, and then able to refer back to the language. So it's not a huge time commitment.
That's
and
wonderful.
Then when you're able to weave the language throughout the day, you're really getting a strong effect.
Are you seeing the impact in writing, all of you?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about like how the data is looking and shifting in terms of using it and what the results are looking like for kids?
This year, you have a lot of data on the effectiveness of using NELI in your classroom.
I did, and I didn't have Charles look at it yet. So
Oh, Charles, look for your data.
No, yes, I
Wow.
did last year.
last year I was able to do a study of the entire first grade. So I tested myself the entire first grade using the language.
How many kids?
There's about 100 kids, which, that's not a very huge sample size,
not-
but I feel like that's
It's a nice amount of kids. It's a nice amount of kids.
But I had a student teacher, so it's like I'd run out.
How long did it take to like collect that data per
It's about
child?
10 minutes per child.
That's good.
And then, so we had the beginning of the year data and then the end of the year data. And we had 2 teachers teaching TELTED or NELI. And then we had 2 teachers that weren't. So we had this quasi experiment.
Oh, tell me more. Tell me more.
Right. And so then, of course, the data was like, it's amazing. Everybody should be doing it.
And that's how I think in schools, that's the best way to get buy-in. Even with some of my most resistant teachers, the second we started working together and the data started shifting, boom, the level of literacy started to disappear. Boom, the decodables came out. Boom, attention to listening to kids read came out. I think that would really help because everything is really about student outcomes. It's all about the kids and how are they doing and how are they feeling and are they thriving and so forth.
But just in relation to writing, I mean, one of the themes of NELI is to improve narrative skills in kids, telling stories better. And so obviously that is just the next step to writing it down.
Right.
And that's key. That's key because I definitely systematically, I don't know how you guys are doing in the UK, but kids are still struggling with writing. And we know that the writing sometimes takes time, it's more complex. But I think that if we do develop that oral language and prioritize that we will see better outcomes because kids don't, it has to go way beyond the turn and talks. I think we got so comfortable in many classes, turn and talk, but kids didn't even have time to process. So now as a school, we've shifted a little bit. Instead of talking immediately, stop, jot, and then talk.
Absolutely.
Give that brain
Absolutely.
a little bit of, and but it's funny. sometimes these things just come randomly. You just meet somebody. I wish the messaging was so much more clear for us as educators about what's best. I almost wish like I would walk away even from this conference knowing, okay, these are my next steps, because, you know, I'll hear so many great things, but how do I make something like NELI come to my school? Can you tell me about that?
Well, as you said, it's kind of word of mouth is one of the best ways. I mean, no matter how much scientists can talk about it, or you can hear about at conference, what you really want to know is what the teachers in the school next door are doing. And if they say it's great, it is great. And you can look and see the incredible comments we get about NELI.
But the program is being marketed in the US with really great readings. So it can
That's
be,
wonderful.
can
And
be
I heard about
easily.
that. Right. I think I spoke to Scott DeSimone maybe a year or two ago, and he told me that it was coming. So I'm so happy that it finally is coming.
It is.
Are you in are you in a lot of schools in the US yet?
Let's take a quick break.
Hey, BS besties. These are the decodables you've been waiting for.
I founded Tumbleweed to cover all 5 pillars of literacy: decoding, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, phonemic awareness, plus writing and rich read-alouds.
And guess what? It's for all kids learning to read, including older and neurodiverse learners.
The lessons are ready-made, evidence-based, and aligned to the science of reading.
And here's the big surprise. And guess what, Literacy View listeners? Get 10% off for Literacy View listeners only, plus a chance to win exclusive bonuses in a surprise raffle. Now, in order to qualify for this, you need to email FaithandJudy@gmail.com. Once again, FaithandJudy@gmail.com to get your code and your discount.
And don't forget to visit tumbleweedpublishing.com to learn more.
And from your No BS besties at the Literacy View, check out Tumbleweed Books as soon as possible to get this exclusive deal. Thank you, No BS besties. Bye.
We're in an appreciable number of schools, a lot of schools in Montana.
I love it. Montana, look.
But we've got schools in Florida, in Maryland, in Cleveland, Ohio. We're getting traction.
Lots of schools trying it, and anybody
That's
who wants
good.
to try it, they can
Do you
request
think-
a little pilot.
Wow, that's great. Do you think that people are ready for it? Or do you think that there's so many people that are still learning the reading and how to teach kids decoding and are so hyper-focused on that and learning the screeners? Do you think people are ready to embrace this learning, which is
Everyone at
obviously
this conference
critical?
is ready to embrace it.
That's 100%.
If there 500 go out and they will tell one friend, that'll be
That-
1,000.
You're 100% right.
It's a snowball effect.
There was just, I could not go to another conference where I just learned the same thing over and over again. That's not how we grow. We have to stretch and we have to grow, and we have to also embrace areas where we're not an expert. We can't all be an expert in every area. You know, I'm great at teaching kids how to read. It's really,
But we mustn't throw out phonics. But the point is, phonics should be delivered in a rich language context.
correct.
And language can support phonics because, especially in English, not every word is decodable. So what are you going to do?
Right.
You're going to resort to your language. And for any good language user, it's just implicit. The context of the sentence is unfolding over time, and they can deal with the word that comes, just even if it's a very irregular word. But for a child with poor language, they stumble across an irregular word and they just sound it out and they say, why do you
Right. And then they don't connect it to meaning at all. And I think that, for a while we was so worried in the balanced literacy world that, with the queuing system and so forth. And of course, does it make sense? Does it sound right? Does it look right? That wasn't the best course of action, but we have to still remember that the reason we read is to understand. We need to understand. And I think so many people forgot that is a critical piece of reading as well.
But the message of our research is that oral language skills are fundamental to all aspects of literacy and really to the whole of education. And I think that message is slowly getting across to teachers, but I think it's still a message that many people find a bit surprising. I mean, the traditional view is that you learn language naturally when you're at home, and then you go to school and you get taught to read, but you don't need to be taught language. And I think what we're saying very strongly is you should be teaching language in school. You can teach language in school very effectively. And doing that has wide benefits for the development of reading, writing, spelling, but also for all other aspects of educational attainment, really.
I think, too, when I first started on the path of structured literacy, moving away from balanced literacy, one of my first mistakes was I thought I only have to teach phonemic awareness, phonics, connected text, and I'm going to magically have fluency.
Right.
But the data doesn't support that theory. And
Absolutely
it didn't,
not.
like 3 years in a row. And so then I went back to the drawing board. What am I missing? And I was missing oral language. And the other aspects of the systems.
And phrasing and fluency is a big part of that as well, right?
Right. Reasoned phrasing, punctuated expression,
100%.
prosodic expression. And then how do we build all of that? So when we're only focused on decoding, you're going to see a plateau with your students.
100%.
So that's when we grew our knowledge, we explored more options, and then, the more we know, the better outcomes our students have.
Now, is there any hope for a school that might not be ready to get NELI? What do we do? What's a plan B for those people?
When you say can't get it,
Like what if,
get it.
but what if like I go to my principal tomorrow and I present it and he says no, but we still know that language is important and assessing language is important. What could be an immediate next step until we again say, hey, because sometimes it takes convincing your principal. Sometimes it doesn't happen overnight. And sometimes you have to have a very difficult conversation. Like today you had a conversation, you presented something, your principal might say yes. Then he or she might have said, oh no, I changed my mind. What do you do?
Well, I think persuade them to have a little go, put their toe in the water, try it out on a few kids, broken record, keep telling them.
I think you can invite them to learn along with you too. Like, I want to go into this journey and learn more about the oral language development. Can we look at this together? Can we research this together? I think once you open doors that way, it can affect lots of grade levels.
Do you think that teachers are ready for it? Do you think that there's going to be some teachers that say, oh, another thing on our plate?
But teachers love it, and they find it easier, I think, to deliver than phonics. Yeah.
I love it. And one of the things that we didn't talk about is what does oral language do for the students besides their academic benefits? And there are tremendous.
Let me guess. Wait. Behavioral.
Right.
That's been a big theme at the conference as well.
There's an enormous social and emotional component that comes out of this. And of course, you can embed cooperative learning into NELI so seamlessly so that the kids are building community. So you're establishing a really safe environment for them to be risk takers with their language. And what I found was some of my students that were having the hardest time in the beginning of the year, you can kind of narrow it down to, oh, we need to work on making requests, or we need to work on explaining our ideas in a full sentence. And so you might see a student in the beginning of the year who's maybe having some reactive behavior. And I saw within just a couple of months, the agency of my students increasing so that the level of frustration was dropping quickly. I mean,
I could imagine.
Hard to replicate that in another way. I haven't really had success trying to give them language, not specifically teaching it. Do you know what I mean? Like embedding language into the day is what people think. Well, I'm teaching them language all day long, but that's not actually accurate.
Right.
You might be teaching them language, but you're not explicitly teaching them the skills that they need to be expressive, receptive, language comprehension. I mean, the things.
And it probably touches upon syntax in some ways as well, right?
Of
Which has
course.
been a big part of this conference as well.
Yeah.
Can I just say, I mean, there's a saying, well, it's not rocket science. So teaching phonics is not rocket science, but actually it's technically quite complicated and takes a lot of knowledge and skill to do it well. And it's the same with language. Teaching language isn't rocket science, but there are a whole range of techniques and materials that you can use to do it effectively. And I think schools and their students can benefit greatly from that knowledge and training. Is that roughly right, Nickie?
I completely agree with that.
And I think we also just a sort of a note in a way. Think about mathematics. It's all, the language of maths is very complicated. You mentioned the word compare. Well, you know, that's great. If the children know what compare,
Right.
they're going to be so much better in their math lesson.
100%. There's going to be a trickle down effect.
Subtraction and take away and minus, they're all the same thing. That's language. Without language, they're going to fail in math as well as in reading.
Can NELI be incorporated into other like content areas, like when their kids are pulled out to go to science or social studies and so forth as well? Or would that be really tough?
The principles could be adapted for those kinds of.
But
The
it's
principles,
really-
right?
Yeah.
But it's really for K and grade 1, where we're probably really talking about getting in place the fundamental language skills that are used throughout the curriculum, but it's not really designed to specifically target, say, science or maths or any of those different curriculum areas.
But one of our
I feel like you applied those principles, like you said, across the
was the
curriculum.
curriculum, yeah. And a colleague in Scotland has, in his school, he encourages everyone to do the training, not just the kindergarten grade 1.
Tell me more about why.
Because he says they need to abstract the principles and they need to then apply them, even if it's not the NELI materials because it's grade 3 or grade 5.
Right.
But there are things that you can learn. from
Best
it.
practices. Yep.
Yeah. And the first module is actually about the structure of language, which all teachers ought to know.
Wow. I want to see it. I really want to get involved. This is an area I'm really passionate about, but I could definitely dig deeper into it. What about progress monitoring? Is there a progress monitoring piece?
We use Language Screen for that.
Good.
Yeah. Language Screen is used to identify the children who most need the pull-out parts of the program, and it's also very effective for monitoring the improvements, and we get big improvements.
There's also a new progress monitoring tool for narrative, isn't there? Which,
There is.
There is, yeah.
which
Tell
is-
me more
which is
about
integral to the program. Well, the teachers are transcribing what the kids are saying, and
That's
they can-
wonderful.
yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so
relatively
important.
new.
We-
And, yeah.
You know, we just don't listen to our kids talk enough. And in a lot of classrooms, it's still kind of like, all right, we have to just be quiet, or we have to sit still, or we have to move on, or, okay, 2 people raise their hand and it's done. And it's sometimes not even the teacher's fault. It's because they have a lot of pressure. Sometimes, an admin can come in. You're supposed to be doing this. But I really think that kids aren't talking enough. When I was in the classroom, I probably talked a little bit too much with my students because I do love to talk. But there were rich conversations. And I said it on another podcast. Kids 25 years later remember how I treated them in kindergarten. And one of my students went to Oxford, and she's now a doctor. And, it's just an amazing thing. And I would have never had a student reach out to me if we didn't have conversations.
But you've just used a really, really important word. People should be having conversations in classrooms. People should be getting kids to talk, not all the time, but in appropriate settings. And this word conversation is so powerful, I think.
I think systematically, and this might be a little controversial, people got very attached to the word mini lesson. And now in structured literacy, that word is being used too. So everything has to be very mini.
Oh.
How do you feel about that? It was a very Lucy Calkins kind of term, and it didn't disappear, and it stayed in the programs that are being thrown.
Well, little and often, of course, is very, very powerful, and this is what Nickie says she does in a way. You have the kind of the session, but you kind of then drip feeding throughout the day.
So Nickie talked about revisiting bits of the program throughout the day, and that's in psychological parlance what we refer to as distributed practice. And we know distributed practice is incredibly effective in producing permanent learning. So if you teach a word and then bring it up again an hour or 2 hours or 3 or 4 or the next day, that's distributed practice, and that's consolidating the learning that's occurred.
And I love, so NELI there's a story, there's a song, there's a slide where you're
wonderful.
comparing. So you're having,
There's a song that's written for you.
I'm not singing.
I'm actually, come on, let's do it. Okay.
I'm too nervous. I mix up all the words.
That's a lot of fun though.
But we
And that's missing in
sing,
classrooms.
and then there's like the best listener, and I laminated the stars, and so like I get to put a necklace on the best listeners, and then I mean, it's so lovely. It's so loving.
So after you, so is everybody singing the song with you?
We all sing. We
And
all
then do you
sing
talk about
everything
what you
the
just said?
wrong way around, which is backwards. That's like the round. We say my clothes are on inside out. They call it the wrong way around, right? So I mean, there's different songs that we're laughing, we're having fun. So
Is there questioning that comes with the songs and so forth?
it's always tied to your lesson. So
It's always tied,
it's an
see?
it's an expression of the experience, right? So it's making the learning experiential for the kids. So there's a lot of opportunities for that. We know it's visual, it's auditory, there's tactile stuff, there's kinesthetic. So it's really engaging. Is
it a part of the school day that the kids really like look forward to?
It's how we started.
And that's magical. And that's what needs to be in our classrooms too. Joy.
You know, just in relation to feelings of belonging, sometimes when kids go into the next grade, they want to come back to visit Ted.
I bet. I bet. Oh my God, they're going to remember those memories forever. Forever.
It's good fun, and it should, and you know, and that's also a great thing. It is good fun, and as Nickie said, it's not that difficult to do.
I love that. And yeah, teachers don't want something that's difficult. People are very overwhelmed now. I mean, AI has helped teachers a little bit, but yeah, we definitely need some support, and we need things that are structured. Right. And, you know, we saw another, Trina and Doug Spencer showed something today that was so structured. And I'm like, why is the city pushing things that aren't structured? I'm not afraid of structure because I feel like I could still be my creative and funny animated self, but structure is great. And I think that structure sometimes can expedite the learning for teachers, because sometimes like things will take 2 years to learn or 3. We don't have time. But if you start doing something becomes familiar. And how do we get better when we start doing something? So if a lesson is written and you said it's straightforward and not hard to do, you probably could become really good at it really quickly. Is that right?
Absolutely. And then, you know, there are times when you can adapt it so that, you know, I know we're going to be writing about X, Y, and Z. So this lesson perfectly teaches that. So you can adapt it to, there's modifications that you can make, like, it was Halloween and we were talking about authentic and artificial. And there was, it's like one of the characters in the story is going to dragon school and she has to wear a pumpkin on her head for her helmet.
Oh my God.
And so we're laughing. I'm like, would we really put a pumpkin on our head? And like having these wonderful conversations about why that maybe wouldn't be so great.
Oh my God, the kids probably have so much fun. And you know what? That's fun to talk about imaginary things. I don't see that many conversations that are about things that are imaginary or fictional. I see like in New York City schools where I'm at so much, and we know it's important, nonfiction, and kids are reading about waves and sharks and about indigenous people or climate. And some of it's kind of boring. I'm not going to lie. And some of it's not. You know, I love nonfiction, but I think using our imagination plays a role. What do you guys think?
I think fiction and non-fiction are both important.
Of course.
And different kids like different materials. When I was a child at school, I really liked factual books. I remember my favourite book in primary school was The Truth About Castles.
The Truth About Castles.
Well, now that would be just a source of immense imagination and creativity.
It's funny, for me as a kid, I loved fiction. But now I have a really hard time with fiction, and I don't know why. I'm always reading a nonfiction book. 99% of the time it's about literacy, and then sometimes it's about self-help, about growing, about being happy, about being motivated, about meditating. You know, sometimes my co-host Faith Borkowski will say, okay, Judy, you can listen to a different podcast. It doesn't have to be about literacy. It could be about something else like Mel Robbins or something like that. But so in terms of, is this helping kids mostly with DLD, dyslexia, or all types of kids and other disabilities as well?
I think it can benefit all children, but it's particularly important for children who are kind of at the bottom of the pile in terms of their language problems.
But the reason they're there could be a language disorder, but it could just be to do with English as an additional language, or it could be to do with, some deprivation, poverty, lack of lack of language in the home. So we don't, in NELI, categorize kids. We don't give them diagnoses. We think if a child's got a language weakness, you kind of help them. If they don't respond, you might start to then wonder, is something...
And then dig deeper.
Yeah, absolutely. But the first line is to kind of enrich the classroom and then identify the children and give them more targeted.
Is it available in other languages as well?
Spanish.
Oh, Dutch.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did want to say, so I know
Spanish is a good one.
data novice. I'm an implementation scientist novice.
Oh.
No, that's just fancy.
No,
I like that.
You're an expert on that.
Implementation is such an important part of literacy. It can go so poorly if implementation science is not there.
So when I looked at my data, I of course know which students are which, even though when we're looking at the data, I randomize it. So, to protect privacy, but I internally know who is who. And so then I'm looking at across the board who's growing, and everyone's growing. But what's interesting is it's designed to help our kids who, might have dyslexia or developmental language delays. But usually our advanced kids will plateau. In response to NELI, they were making the same amazing gains that my other students were making. And that's really hard.
So tell me
find.
more about that.
Okay,
So give me an
If
example.
we look at their standard score points from the beginning of the year to
Yeah.
the end of the year, it was, so this last year, I had one student that only made 1 point of standard score gain, one student that made 6. Everybody else made 10 or more points, 10 to 30 standard score points. So you guys know better about what that would mean. I don't know how to calculate effect size. I don't know that, but I know how to look at the beginning and then.
So were the kids that were doing well in the class and the kids that needed enrichment also participating in this as well, right?
Everybody.
So I want to hear about that because I think in general, a lot of kids, or systematically where we're at in New York City, we focus a lot on the kids that are struggling, and very often the kids that are not struggling sometimes get overlooked. So can you guys tell me how this can be helpful for students that need maybe to expand and even become advanced in this area?
Well, I think, as Nickie says, all children will benefit from high quality language input, and the kids at the top of the class will go up as well as the kids at the bottom. When we designed these materials, we were particularly concerned about children at the bottom of the class who were struggling. But I think we view this, it's a bit like, is it good for you to have a healthy diet if you have a poor diet at home? Yes, it is. But that's probably good for everybody, right?
Right.
Is exercise good for you? Well, yeah, it is. Particularly good for you if you're really unfit like I am at the moment.
I actually am a little stressed out. I've been going to Equinox, the gym, every day this summer, almost every day. But this week I'm skipping because I'm at the conference. Yeah. But yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So I'm skipping exercise and eating a lot. So it's not, it's not a good week for me. But, giving everybody some moderate exercise is going to benefit.
Of course, 100%.
People who are fit. It'll also benefit people
I think that's a really, really great point.
And so that's an analogy with language work. Language work will help everybody.
So in the US, I don't see a lot of kids getting and I don't know if this is a little off topic, but I listened to you guys speak yesterday. Why do you think it's so hard to get a dyslexia diagnosis on an IEP? And also, why do you think knowledge about DLD is not, where the dyslexia knowledge is so far? And do you think that this conversation will look very different in a couple of years? I think Tiffany Hogan, I interviewed her the other day, and she said in about 5 years, she thinks we're going to catch up. What do you guys think? Oh, no.
Well, I was part of the group who led the project that led to the terminology of DLD. And what's happened in the research literature is that the number of citations of DLD, as opposed to all the other things that used to be called, have just gone up like that. But we know there's quite a long gap then between research and practice.
Right.
So still getting actually resources out. With regard to dyslexia, I mean, it's a strange beast because everyone's aware of dyslexia. They're not aware of DLD. There's almost too many people aware of it. So I think that actually deters people with the really intransigent forms from getting the services that they need, because too many people will tell you that they're dyslexic. It's almost like the awareness has gone mad. So I think that's a problem.
Right.
But I think we need to redefine dyslexia as a problem, a language learning difficulty. But we need to have teachers who are empowered to develop appropriate interventions, which would be language-based, but also reading and phonological awareness-based, and really be able to say, why we do feel this child needs services because we have tried and they have not responded, that we have delivered a very well-founded intervention. So we need to really use response to intervention much more in the diagnosis of dyslexia.
Do you think that intervention programs that exist now have to think about this oral language piece and maybe embed more of that into the programs, like, for instance, maybe SPIRE or UFLI? Do you think that that would help, or do you think that that would just cause more chaos?
Well, I think there's lots of good evidence that the sorts of highly structured, phonologically based interventions, which combine reading, phonology, and
Connected
reading,
text, right?
connected text. I mean, I think they are effective. Where we need to look is when children don't respond to them. I think at that point we need to be saying, has this child got a language?
Oh, that's a very, very good point.
Can I just say that I'm less optimistic than Tiffany we're going to soon recognise DLD widely. I mean, a big problem is that obviously teaching children to read is a fundamental part of the school curriculum. And if a child, after a couple of years in school, really can't read.
And there's kids like that. I've met fourth graders. I've met sixth graders.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably going to be quite obvious to a teacher. But if a child sits at the back of the classroom and is quiet and well-behaved, doesn't really understand anything that's going on in the classroom, teachers are ill-equipped to recognise those kids. This is one of the reasons that we developed our language screen assessment app. That gives teachers a quick and accurate way of identifying the language skills, the level of language skills in all children in the class. But until people start using measures like that, I don't think people are suddenly going to start recognising DLD. And the other thing I'd say is that actually DLD is probably about as common as dyslexia.
Right.
And actually, it's a much more serious disorder than dyslexia.
That's very interesting. Tell me more about that. I'm fascinated.
Well, dyslexia refers to a specific difficulty in learning to decode words.
Right.
And that's a problem for sure. I don't want to minimize the fact that that's a problem. But imagine how it would be if you really have great difficulty understanding what people are saying to you and have enormous difficulty in expressing what you want to say to people using language. Imagine you go to a foreign country and you can't understand anything that's being said to you.
That's a really good analogy.
You can't communicate with anyone. That's a horrible situation to be in.
Wow.
You can't understand what's happening in school. You can't form friends. This is a really very serious disorder.
I think there are two other very sad aspects. The first is that if you look at DLD in relation to, say, autism spectrum disorder,
I was just going to mention that.
Far more common. But the
DLD, wait, say that again.
DLD is far more common than autism.
Wow.
But
and all we hear is a lot of autism.
Yeah, no, but they're very good at self-advocacy, and they've got resources for their kids, and that's great. Wow. But with DLD, parents often have language problems as well. They're not available. They're not able to advocate in the way in which parents of children with other kinds of disorders can. That's one very sad thing. The second very sad thing is that the main way DLD comes to light is when a child is referred to a child and adolescent psychiatrist for a conduct disorder. They have a conduct disorder because they can't understand or they can't express themselves. And they
Explain what a conduct disorder means.
Yeah, in New York City, we usually have or it used to be District 75, and then sometimes these kids would be labeled emotionally disturbed.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Or they're in young offenders institutions.
And nothing good was happening after that.
So one of the things that we must do, and there was a pediatrician here who said it, is we've got to
Yes,
get language
Roger.
screen into the hands of
Robert.
child health professionals. I
That's
think that would be
right.
a very good thing to do.
And that my co-host Faith Borkowski is really passionate about that area. And I always say, oh, Faith, we got to get the leaders. She says, no, the parents. We have to get parents on board. I'm actually bringing in an organization in my school to work with the parents, and we're bringing in an organization called Link to bring the science of reading games, so that the parents are playing games with kids and oral language games and all of that stuff, because it's a very important piece of the puzzle, because, you know, you can't just do one thing in one place and not have it happen at home. And parents need to know what's happening with their kids, and not all of our parents have great oral skills. So how can we empower parents?
Well, some of the children that Nickie's teaching, they learn about compare. They're going to go home and say, "We learned about compare." They'll be teaching them.
Oh, they'll tell. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And that does happen. We know that does happen. We know what the word of the day is, and then there's a discussion at home about around the dinner table.
Do they ever go home with like their little word of the day? That's awesome.
I try so hard to share, to make transparent what's happening in the classroom with my parents. And, a lot of the parents don't have the knowledge, and some of them can be vulnerable and say, I don't know what to do. Can you help me? And I'm like,
And that's wonderful. And I think that parents are open. If you come in with a loving heart,
right.
Parents are very open.
But for parents who don't feel that way, one of my calls to action has been, how do we get this information into our 0 to 5 population? Like, what's happening with the pediatricians? What's happening with the daycares? What's happening with the preschools? And I think Patti can talk to, you guys did some outreach to try to bring this to our community.
Yeah. We've done things like in our Child Find and just community organizations such as Wiggly Wednesdays, our library, our public library, just getting things just to give for free, to have learning mats at home, different things like that. Unfortunately, we have our early literacy program, but we're only able to house 2 in our small town. So we have 2 classes for 4-year-olds that screen in through a variety of screenings. One, we do use language screen. And we're also implementing the preschool NELI TED program in those classes as well.
Wonderful.
So hopefully, we're catching them early.
That's great. And I think catching them early has been something that I'm really passionate about. But I think that sometimes, unfortunately, schools do the let's wait. We need more data. And sometimes I think it's about money. As sad as it is to say, maybe I'm wrong, but special education sometimes costs schools money, and sometimes waiting might not be the best idea. And I know that you guys said that during your presentation. I wrote that down. You said, you mentioned that there's a tight window of time. And we're going to wrap up in a little bit, but I really want to know about that tight window of time.
That's Maggie's.
Well, we know that language becomes very stable after the age of 4. So if you've got poor language at age 4, you're going to go on to poor language. We also know that reading at around about 6, that's also very stable. So you've got a very short period of time in which we can kind of try and ensure that by school entry, children have good oral language, and that might mean starting at 3 or even 2. But in any case, if they've still got poor language at school entry, screen and intervene, because
Screen and intervene. Did you hear that, listener? Screen and intervene.
and
That's going to
then
be on our sweatshirt.
yeah.
Oh my God, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah. Screen, intervene, and review.
Good.
And once you've done the language, build on it the reading. So the 2 things develop in tandem. But I think it is a tight window. There's a lot of research, particularly on kids actually with developmental language disorder, which shows that if you identify a developmental language disorder at age 3, something like 10% of those kids resolve their difficulties.
Only 10.
Only about 10%. But those that do go on to have
Great,
pretty
wonderful,
normal literacy
successful life.
development. But if you still have a persistent difficulty, or indeed if your difficulties have got worse in time, which also sometimes happens, then you really are going to be destined to have difficulties in the educational
Wow. So this
space.
is urgent.
Yeah, it's an urgent.
And it kind of
call to
scares me
action.
that it's urgent and yet you weren't that optimistic that it's going to transfer into all the classrooms that quickly.
Well, I'm not convinced that this is going to be
You're probably right.
widely recognized anytime soon. I think it's getting more recognized for sure, but I think that's going to take some time.
But we're not going to stop discussing this on the literacy view. So
Because
it
it can be masked by dyslexia as well. I mean, that's the point I think I tried to make in my
Right,
talk.
right.
You've got dyslexic kids and they've got the label, but maybe some of them have got a DLD as well.
That's right. And
you
I
have
think
to
that's been something
too much
really
focus on
interesting.
their reading.
And I think that was a real wake-up call for me to have to hear that at the conference, because I think for so often we think it's dyslexia or maybe dysteachia, but not that many people think, oh, maybe it's DLD and dyslexia, or maybe,
But this really is why we developed Language Screen. With Language Screen, a teacher can get this an accurate assessment of a child's language skills in, say, 8 to 10 minutes. That's highly accurate.
Is it pen and paper?
No, it's automated.
That's beautiful. I think I saw that outside also.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
It's on
automated.
an app. You can do it on your phone.
that's wonderful.
And that makes it a simple. But
And it
teachers-
interprets the data on the phone.
It does. It does.
Oh,
You have an automatic score and a report. I love the report.
Yeah.
who could ask for anything more, right? So it
But
wouldn't be,
anyone can try it, yeah?
And anyone can try it for free.
how?
Anyone
For
Wait,
free.
wait.
Just go to oxfordanassessment.com. You can get full instructions.
I'm
on
totally going to try
how
it,
to
and then I'm
download
going
it.
to follow up and tell you how it went. So
Excellent.
you have to hold
Go-
me accountable.
Go and use it.
Because you know what? A million people might say, oh, I'm going to do it. And a lot of people don't do it.
Go
I'm
and
saying
use
it
it.
on the literacy view. I am going to do it. And I'm going to let everybody know how it went. And chances are the first time I'm going to be a little confused because I get a little nervous. I'm going to do it once and then I'll do it again because I probably do things better the
You're
second
going
time
to test
around.
yourself.
Yeah,
Okay.
why not? So here, it wouldn't be the literacy view without calling out BS. That's what we do on the literacy view. So open forum, some BS we want to get rid of in literacy. Any BS that you think needs to be stopped right now.
I think that oral language needs to be explicitly taught. When I hear people say, I just embed it into my day, I get very concerned for their students.
That's a good one. Next, any BS?
There's no perfect curriculum out there. It really is the level of our training our teachers too.
100%.
That, there was 10 hours of training for this program.
10 hours is not bad. I like it. It's not 2 years.
No,
That's great.
but
It's all
we have to have
online.
our teachers be skilled in order to implement a program.
Any BS over here?
Working memory training will not help you learn to read.
Yes.
Working. Tell me more about that for a second. You just got me very excited.
Well, working memory training is great. It's kind of video game. You train your working memory. You can do all sorts of really great things. And it's going to transfer to improve your reading and your math
And your language.
and your language.
And it doesn't.
BS.
Wow, I'm gonna have
Big
to.
sky.
I'm gonna be thinking about that one all night. My room doesn't have a very comfortable bed at the summit. I have a Murphy bed that I'm sharing with Paul. That's right over there. But that's the last thought I'm gonna go to sleep with. And then I might find you tomorrow to talk about that again. Anything from you, Charles?
I'm much too polite.
Oh, come on. It's the literacy. Okay, you know what, Charles? I'm going to give you a free pass. I don't usually do it, but you are a very special honored guest. I'm going to start with something positive, something you think that we should be cheering on in terms of education, especially in your area of passion.
Well,
A
I
celebration.
think the recognition of language is growing, and I think that's so important. And I think it's going to be incredibly important. As Nickie said, language is something that needs to be taught and can be taught. Let's just get on and do it.
Anybody else? Something to cheer?
It's so joyful teaching language because you're teaching students and these lovely little babies the skills that they really want to have
That's right.
to be an effective communicator.
Communication is so
It
important.
is. So we're giving them a gift and it's so satisfying as the teacher. So I think there's a lot of joy in that.
Anything else to celebrate or cheer? I know everybody.
I think we need to have a call out for Samuel Orton, because back in 1935, he said, reading difficulties are associated with difficulties in the oral language faculty. And I like this idea. of oral
1935.
Yeah. So, almost
Reading
a century
language.
ago.
So it's making a comeback.
Exactly. All good ideas come back.
I'm very excited. That
As long as the bad ideas don't come back.
I'm trained right now.
Oh, I'm trained as well. Anything to cheer from you, Patti?
I think if we have more opportunities like the Big Sky Literacy Summit and having more people have understandings like this, this really is a special honor to come here. It's the 5th year with some of the greatest researchers.
Amazing, right?
And then to bring it down to have practical application for practitioners like us in schools is just, that's a gift. I cheer it on. I wish we had more.
And Patti, I want to applaud you as a building leader that knows that this is important and you're making it happen. Can you just say one more positive thing about how you made it happen to inspire more people to make it happen?
Communication. Just keep talking about it. We have discourse often and we see things that are going on in our building, and how can we do better for kids? Just how can we do better for kids?
Thank you for being on the Literacy View, everybody. We're changing lives one view at a time. And remember, language is
everything.
And thank you, Nell, and thank you, Terry. The message is clear in our minds.
Did it get recorded?
Hi, No BS Besties. It's Judy from the Literacy View, and I wanted to announce some really great news. Faith and I have launched our own consulting services for all of our No BS Besties. So check it out on theliteracyview.com. We have data chats. We have a No BS Bestie helpline. We have Don't Make Me Press the BS Button screeners and assessment work that we do. We'll help you build classroom libraries that build readers. We'll help you with gamifying education and professional learning. We're also really excited to launch our exciting Science of Reading aligned reading retreats. We'll find you, we'll set up, and let's get this party started. We also have parent literacy events that we could help support you with. We could also connect you to literacy experts in the field, create a No BS literacy community, and WhatsApp groups for your school. And also, we're interested in helping you setting up a strong pre-K and foundational skills program in your school. Choose your own literacy adventure. Contact FaithandJudy@gmail.com for our No BS literacy services. And also, you could find out more about all our services on theliteracyview.com.